In what state of mind is Romeo when we first meet him? Monday morning, and I was in English class, sketching in the margins of my notepad while our teacher drilled us on the finer points of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. "Anyone?" Miss Riley asked, looking over the rows of bored students. She ran a hand through her curly red hair. She was really young for a teacher, and I guessed still under the naive impression that she could actually make a difference in her students' lives. Of course, soon enough she'd realize her role here was little more than a glorified babysitter, and she'd start practicing the method the old school teachers favored, like wheeling in a television and letting us watch the movie version of whatever was on the curriculum that week. Come on, did anyone do this weekend's reading assignment? I did, nerd that I am. Not that I'd needed to. I'd read the play 4 times over the last 3 years and had seen both the 1968 movie and the way cool Leonardo DiCaprio Claire Danes modern update. There was just something about the tragic love story that really spoke to me. But that didn't mean I was going to raise my hand and call attention to myself. I had enough notoriety at Hannah Dustin High already, thank you very much. A crumpled piece of paper bounced onto my desk. I didn't have to turn around to know Billy and his cronies were responsible. Ever since that first day in school, when Grandma had told all his friends about his bedwetting problem, he'd made it his life's mission to annoy and embarrass me. And he and his hater friends were damn good at the job. I'd had my lunch tray tipped over 4 times, countless spitballs in my hair, my locker super glued shut, and my clothes stolen from my gym locker and stuffed down the toilet, all in the span of 3 weeks. While I had never been the most popular girl back in my old school, at least I had my circle of friends. Girls to giggle with in the hallways and boys to pass notes to in class. Now I had no one. Not even my old friends, who were too wrapped up in their own daily lives to ever remember to call me back. And when they eventually did, they had news stories and new inside jokes, ones I didn't know or understand. I'd hang up the phone after talking to them, feeling even more alone than before. Against my better judgment, I unfolded the paper. Someone had drawn a picture of a vampire girl that was obviously supposed to be me. The words "Freak Girl" were printed in big block letters across the page. Jerks. I crumpled up the paper in my fist, my face burning. Laughter erupted from the back of the classroom. I forced myself not to turn around, even though I wanted nothing more than to give Billy the finger. "And what, pray tell, is so funny, William?" demanded Miss Riley, suddenly stopping her lesson. She made her way through the rows of desks until she reached my nemesis and his gang. I stole a glance. All the boys had immediately donned poker faces. Innocent angels, the lot of them.
"Nothing, Miss Riley,"
they chimed. She turned back to me. "Were these boys bothering you, Maddie?" she queried. I squirmed in my seat. Ugh, great. This was the last thing I needed. Teacher intervention. "No, Miss Riley," I said, silently begging her to go back to her lesson. "Don't make it worse," I prayed. "Please don't make it worse." She narrowed her eyes. Of course she didn't believe me. She held out her hand, and I reluctantly handed over the vampire drawing. After a brief inspection, she turned back and looked straight at Billy. "Wow, someone's quite the artist," she remarked pointedly. "Would you like to tell me who drew this?" Billy's friends started laughing. Billy hissed at them to shut up. Miss Riley turned back to me. "Madeline," she said, "did William throw this at you?" I grimaced, realizing my predicament. I didn't want to lie, especially not to Miss Riley, who was cool and interesting and tried hard to be a good teacher. But on the other hand, I wasn't a snitch, and the last thing I wanted was to piss off Billy even more. It would only end badly for me. I made my decision. "No, I don't know who drew it," I said, sinking lower into my seat and praying she'd take my answer without pressing me further. Miss Riley looked down at me for a moment, silent pity clear in her eyes. Great. She felt bad for me. Could I get any more pathetic?
"I know who drew it."
Heads turned to the opposite side of the room. Matt, the hipster kid I met my first day here, was madly waving his hand in the air, ignoring Billy's death look.
"It was Billy Henderson,"
he announced, triumph clear in his voice. I smiled a little. He was the only person I'd seen so far who dared stand up to the haters. Probably because he was the only person who'd been buying to their whole high school royalty thing to begin with. I decided to make an effort to talk to him later. After all, he definitely had good friend potential.
"Shut up, faggot,"
Billy retorted, glowering at the tattletailer. Miss Riley's head pivoted sharply. "William," she scolded, "watch your language." Billy opened his mouth to retort, but evidently thought better of it.
Sorry.
he muttered. I noticed Matt giving him a friendly wave from behind Miss Riley's back and stifled a giggle. Billy, I want you to go down to the principal's office and explain your need to express yourself artistically in class, the teacher ordered. Perhaps we could sign you up for after-school art classes or something. Now the whole class was laughing. Billy scowled at the teacher, but didn't object. The bell rang, and then everyone jumped up, eager to leave so they could go out in the halls and gossip about the whole thing to their friends. I gathered my books as quickly as possible, trying to get out of there before Billy came down the aisle. Also, I wanted to find Matt and thank him for coming to my rescue. Madeline, could I talk to you for a moment before you leave? Miss Riley asked. My shoulders slumped. So much for that plan. Yeah, sure, I said, seeing no other option. Billy pushed by me to the exit, deliberately knocking my Romeo and Juliet book from my hands. It fell to the floor, and he stamped on it with a dirty boot, ripping the cover.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
he said loudly. Under his breath, he added,
You're so dead, free girl.
I sighed. I should have known, even though I'd kept my mouth shut, and it was Matt who saw fit to sell him out, that Billy was still going to blame me. I reached down and picked my book up off the floor. Miss Riley walked over to me and sat down on the desk beside me. I've really got to get to my next class, I tried. I'll write you a pass. Sigh. Okay. I sank back into my chair. Miss Riley smoothed out Billy's drawing on the desk, shaking her head. He's not a very good artist, is he? She remarked. In fact, I think I've seen kindergarten finger painters with more talent. I chuckled despite myself, and took the drawing from her. It really was pretty hideous. Yeah, he has zero sense of composition, I analyzed, and his lines are all shaky. Miss Riley looked pointedly at me. You, on the other hand, I hear are really good. Mr. Thomas was telling me about the manga sketches you did for him the other day. I felt my face heat. The art teacher talked about me to the other teachers? I'm okay, I guess, I replied, recrumpling Billy's stupid drawing. I mean, it's something I like doing. Well, I'd love to see some of your stuff sometime, Miss Riley said. If you don't mind showing me. I really love manga. I was surprised. Most adults didn't even know what manga was, and if they did, they dismissed it as comic book trash. Sure, I guess. I never had anyone to show my drawings to. My friends back in Boston didn't really care, and my parents only oohed and awed, because that's what parents were supposed to do when a child makes an effort to express herself. But Miss Riley seemed genuinely interested. Kinda cool. The teacher leaned forward. Maddie, I know high school can be a tough time, especially when you're new. Believe me, I know. Aha! I knew this conversation wasn't really about art. I'm fine, I replied automatically. I so did not want to get into it all with her, no matter how much she appreciated manga. She sighed. You're very bright, and creative, and sweet. She reached over and patted me on the arm. Look, I'm here for you if you want to talk, about anything. And whatever you say to me stays here, in the vault. I won't tell your parents or the principal, well, I'm here if you need a friend. I knew she was trying to help, that she was sincere, but it was just too hard. What was I supposed to say? Tell her how everyone thought I was a freak, and that I had no friends? Yeah, right. I felt tears well up in my eyes and swiped them away. Thanks. That's nice of you, but I'm fine, really. I shifted in my seat, swallowing back the lump in my throat. Can I go now? She studied me for a moment, her face sad. Why did she care so much? Yes, you can go now, she said at last. But my offer remains open, okay? And don't forget, I want to see your art sometime soon. Okay. I jumped up from the seat and made a dash for the exit. It was nice of her to offer to talk, but at the end of the day, she was a grown-up. A teacher. She would never understand. No one would.